Nikola Jokic's path to being a two-time MVP is probably one of the most inspirational stories ever in the NBA. From being a big tub of lard, to quote Stephen A. Smith,
they kids in just a big tub of lard.
To being struck with luck as the NBA scout who was watching the games in the Serbian League was actually scouting another player, then to being drafted 41st overall in the NBA draft as a Taco Bell commercial was airing, then spending some time on the Nuggets bench till Yusuf Nurkic got injured and Jokic got the opportunity to prove himself as a worthy starter, to his latest achievement of winning back-to-back MVP awards. Jokic's story is nothing short of invigorating. Welcome back to Time Sloth, where a player like Nikola Jokic, who refuses to play fast-paced basketball and forces his opponents and the tempo of the game to his own slow tempo, will always be our MVP and get the respect he deserves. Before we start today's episode, I'd like to take a moment of silence in the honor of the late great Bill Russell. Rest in peace, champ. One more thing before we start today's episode. I think we should normalize handing out the regular season MVP awards after the playoffs are done with. Just because if the regular season MVP is still playing in the playoffs or in the finals. Simply because Jokic receiving his MVP award this season in his hometown of Sombor while arriving on a carriage surrounded by his friends, family and coaches is one of the most wholesome moments of this NBA season. Let's make that happen. Now that we have that out of the way, voting for this year's regular season MVP had everyone from fans to analysts to players debating who deserved it more, comparing the stats of each of the three finalists, comparing their win and loss records and their seedings, along with their supporting cast on each team. When Jokic was announced the MVP of the 2022 season, the NBA community was split into two groups: the much more exclusive Jokic deserved it club and the much more popular Embiid got snubbed group. I'm here to tell you that Jokic deserved it, and here's why. It's true that Embiid won the scoring title this season, averaging 30.6 points per game, besting Jokic, who was 6th on the scoring list, averaging 27.1 points per game. And that's the only statistical advantage Embiid has over Jokic. I'm sorry. Embiid averaged 1.5 blocks per game this season to Jokic's 0.8 blocks. I guess that's another advantage for the big man from Cameroon. On the other hand, not only did Jokic average more rebounds and assists than Joel Embiid, Jokic was the only player this season to be in the top 10 list of the three major statistical attributes in basketball: points, rebounds, and assists. It's also worth mentioning that Jokic is on the top 10 list of field goal percentages, and he was a mere 0.1 steal away from being in the top 10 list in that statistical attribute as well. Along with leading the league in double-doubles and triple-doubles, Jokic's season was nothing short of spectacular. Moving on to advanced stats and metrics, Jokic led most advanced categories, offensive and defensive stats in both plus-minus, win shares, and PER, doing so breaking the previous record that was held by Wilt Chamberlain. Breaking any record that was held by Wilt is an achievement on its own. Comparing each player's supporting cast, who had to carry their team harder? Well, of course it's the Joker. Entering the season without Jamal Murray and losing Michael Porter Jr. after 9 games was tough. It forced Aaron Gordon, who was brought in last year as the number 4 option on the floor, to become the second option behind Jokic. Also, shifting Monty Morris to starting point guard really hurt the depth of the Nuggets bench and forced Nikola Jokic to play extra minutes to keep the Nuggets afloat in close games. While Joel Embiid had the luxury of playing alongside Tyrese Maxey, a most improved player candidate, and Matisse Thybulle, who was selected to the All-NBA second defensive team this year. I won't be counting James Harden because he only played 21 games this year with the Sixers. After the season was over, Jokic's Nuggets were only 3 games behind Embiid's Sixers. Jokic carried a squad into the playoffs that included Will Barton and Facundo Campazzo. That's advantage Jokic in my book. Moving away from stats and comparing Jokic's second MVP run to Russell Westbrook's MVP campaign. Why was Westbrook the MVP of the 2016-2017 season? The answer is very simple. He won an MVP award for averaging a triple-double stat line for an entire season, a feat only achieved 55 years ago by none other than Oscar Robertson. Now, how does that compare to Jokic's MVP run? It compares in the aspect that Russ won an MVP for doing something that wasn't done in 55 years. What Jokic did in being the first player to get 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, and 500 assists, not just in 55 years or 100 years, but ever. Think about it for a minute. Not Wilt, not Kobe, not Bill Russell, may they rest in peace, not Shaq, not LeBron, not Michael Jordan, not Charles Barkley, not any player who was on the 75th anniversary team for the NBA has achieved that before. Isn't that worth getting an MVP for? To address all Jokic haters out there, led by Nick Wrong, and others who try to belittle anything Jokic does, I'm gonna throw in another comparison for you. Why did Steph Curry get so much praise and respect for winning the MVP award? Yes, his team had the best record in basketball for that year. Yes, they broke the Bulls' record of 72 wins and 10 losses with their 73-win, 9-loss campaign. And Steph set new standards for three-point shooting. Not only did he break his previous record of 286 three-pointers made with an astonishing 402, thus changing the game of basketball and emphasizing the three-point shot. And that's why Steph got so much praise and respect. What Steph Curry did for the point guard position is exactly what Jokic is doing for the center position. Jokic doesn't play the center position in its traditional form, being the big rim protector, collecting rebounds, and dominating the paint on both sides of the court. Jokic is revolutionizing the center position right in front of our eyes, shooting, passing, rebounding, and being the facilitator on offense. He's so good at what he does, we're forced to call his position point center. And still this is not talked about as much simply because he's a big man. And personally, I can't stand behind the statement of the big man era is back. The last 4 MVP winners are all bigs, and Joel Embiid, a 2-time runner-up, is a force to be reckoned with. Maybe it's because Denver is a small market team, or maybe because Jokic is built different and doesn't play a traditional big like Giannis and Embiid. Entering the crazy world of what-ifs. What if Jokic manages to have an even better statistical season next year? What if the Nuggets managed to get a top 3 seeding in the West? What if he became the first player to get 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists, 100 steals, and 100 blocks in a season? And to be fair, he was 41 blocks away from achieving that last year. This has never been done before. The media has already proclaimed that Jokic's chances at a three-peat are slim to none, and personally I have Luka Doncic winning it next year. But again, what if? What do you think Nikola Jokic needs to do to get a back-to-back-to-back MVP award? Leave that in the comments down below. Before I get to the last segment of my video, a huge shout out to Badr, one of my friends back from university. While we were talking the other day, I came up with the idea for this video. Also, a huge shout out to all my friends who supported me thus far, from script editing to being behind the camera or simply creating a thumbnail for my video. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Jokic and Embiid are two special players who are fun to watch. But what is unfortunate in Embiid's case is that he is playing in the Jokic-Giannis era of basketball. Malone, Barkley, and Ewing played in the Michael Jordan era of basketball and never won a championship. Again, that's unfortunate. But what I'm trying to say here is, even though those guys played in the MJ era of basketball and never won, it didn't stop them from giving it their all and trying even harder. Same goes for Embiid. Don't let a regular season award stop you from being the best version of yourself you can be on the court.